What if Naruto was banished beyond the Western Wall, and built his own world with Hinata, Kurenai, and Ino? Flushed, this is not the same Naruto, this one's stronger, darker, and unstoppable. Let's start.
Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto banished beyond the Western Wall built a harem with Hinata, Kurenai, and Ino? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Hinata did what? Yelled Tsunade from her office, which had the volume of the yell being so loud, it shook the whole tower, and could be heard by the village populace below. Hinata fled to the Western Elemental Empire to be with Uzumaki Naruto, said Kurenai, as she barely got those words out of her mouth when they arrived before Tsunade yelled out her question, and the look of pure fury in those eyes to match her voice. But that's not the worst news, said Kakashi seeing Tsunade turn her attention to him. Explain, said Tsunade while seething inside. Kyuubi is free, by Naruto, said Kakashi seeing Tsunade's eyes widen in shock and fear before they narrowed again. What? Did you just say? Said Tsunade seeing Kakashi now becoming nervous. The Kyuubi is apparently, free. Said Kakashi before hearing the sound of Tsunade's desk breaking in two when the woman brought her fist down upon it. That idiot boy, doesn't he know the consequences of doing that? If Naruto's not dead already from that he soon will be when I get my hands on him. Said Tsunade while the Junin in front of her were concerned about how she would react to this. All their former students injured from the tournament were in the hospital at the moment and almost wished they were switching places. Almost wished. Some of the injuries were too sadistic in how they had been delivered by the Empire's fighters to wish swapping their current situations. Uzumaki Naruto is apparently alive Hokage-sama. Though how close he actually is to the Emperor himself is unknown. From what we heard from the fighters that participated in Spring Country, he's very close, and is well respected over there, said Kakashi while seeing Tsunade's anger growing. Well, there is one way to find out. Find Jiraiya. Bring his in here now. I need to talk to him. The councils, and the clan heads about this situation were now in, said Tsunade furiously with the three Junin nodding and leaving to get the Sannin before the Hokage blew her top. Tsunade-sama, you should really calm down, said Shizune, but the glare Tsunade sent her caused any further advice to halt in her throat, and take a step back. Calm down. Calm down. We've lost support from allies, our daimyo, and just now I learn Hyuga Hinata has left for the Empire. I now have to handle Hinata's father, the political backlash from dealing with the Western Elemental Empire, and their views of the village regarding Naruto's banishment, said Tsunade while Shizune fidgeted slightly under her gaze. It was wrong Hokage-sama, said Shizune quietly to the older woman. What? Said Tsunade not hearing the younger woman clearly. I said it was wrong to banish Naruto for doing his job Hokage-sama, said Shizune in a much louder voice. I didn't ask you for your opinion on the matter Shizune, said Tsunade while younger woman herself now scowled heavily. At least tell me why you went along with the banishment. After everything he has done for this village, for you in believing in yourself after so many years, and getting over your fear of blood. Why? Said Shizune wanting an explanation. Because like it or not the boy was a threat to the village. Not because of the Kyuubi, but because of his heritage, and needed to be cut loose beforehand, said Tsunade seeing the shock on Shizune's face. What heritage? Said Shizune seeing Tsunade snort and look away just to see Jiraiya there on the windowsill. Naruto is the son of Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato, said Jiraiya while he ignored Tsunade's glare and focused on Shizune. Naruto is the son of the Yondaime, said Shizune, as she had always speculated, but never really thought it was possible, and yet. Jiraiya just confirmed it. Yeah, if the village find out before Naruto's banishment, a civil war would have broken out, both Iwa and Kumo would be breathing down our necks even more. At the time, the leaf couldn't protect Naruto from his father's outside enemies, and with the Akatsuki now causing further problems in wanting the kid for the Kyuubi, we had to choose. We had to choose between the leaf and Naruto. We chose the leaf, said Jiraiya sadly while Tsunade looked away. You chose the village, even after all the abuse, the hatred, and pain they unleashed on Naruto. Naruto was and is the son of the Yondaime. If he were trained by you, he could have become stronger than his father, and yet you went along with the banishment, said Shizune with Jiraiya looking away while Tsunade scoffed. And what would Naruto do with that power once he learned the truth? He would have crushed the village in retaliation. The order to banish him was going to happen whether the Gaki succeeded in his mission or not. Naruto needed to know what it was to survive without the village supporting him and have a humbling experience where he understood the need to be a leaf shinobi no matter the situation, said Tsunade while Shizune turned to face her and gave the female Hokage the deepest scowl the slug princess had ever seen her student give. Humble. You call banishing Naruto from the village a humbling experience. After this village gave him next to nothing and what they did give being poor quality. The boy was in hell when living in this village while I was taking care of you Tsunade and you Jiraiya were out peeping in the hot springs of different villages. If anything, you too should have been humbled, but your own arrogance wouldn't let it happen, and now that Naruto is happily free to do what he wants in the Western Elemental Empire, you feel scorned. What is the matter with you two? Said Shizune before she stormed out of the room with Jiraiya sighing and rubbing the back of his neck. Ouch, said Jiraiya while sitting down in a chair across from Tsunade. Shizune's still young and will get over it, said Tsunade, as she saw Jiraiya not looking entirely convinced, and just decided to accept the woman's judgment on the matter. You called me here for something important, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade nod. Yes, Naruto is in the Empire like we first thought years ago, but now Hyuga Hinata is there too, and she wants to be with him, said Tsunade with Jiraiya wincing at hearing the girl going over to the Empire. That's bad. The Hyuga elders will want her seal activated and when they do, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade nod. She'll die, slowly, painfully, and right in front of Naruto no less if she's that unlucky, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya's face having a grim look to it. And if Naruto has some decent pull with the Emperor, said Jiraiya while going a bit pale in the face. The Emperor could cause us a lot of problems if he felt a need to get involved in some way, said Tsunade knowing the fire daimyo did not want to invoke the wrath of the Empire on his lands. Worse, he could go around the political view of things and send his agents to basically cripple the leaf so badly only one of our enemies from finishing the job, said Jiraiya and saw Tsunade wince knowing he was right. We need to discuss this with the councils and clan heads. There is one more thing they need to know that you don't and it's not pretty, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya's face getting grimmer. When is it ever pretty? Said Jiraiya before following Tsunade out of her office to the meeting room where the councils and clan heads were awaiting them. Shizune was very good at her job since she knew what needed to be done while Tsunade talked to Jiraiya first. Are the rumors true? Is the Kyuubi roaming around freely in the Empire? Said Koharu while Jiraiya looked shocked and then looked at Tsunade glaring at the older woman. First, the meeting here is not official until I sit down and say it is. Second, I was going to address that matter. And if you defy me again I'll have you arrested for treason. Third, the rumors are indeed true from what Kakashi, Kurenai, and Guy have told me about how the Emperor himself spoke to Kyuubi's name with the supposed demon fox responding to it, said Tsunade, which caused a fury of shouting and yelling over how to handle this matter. The demon must be eliminated. Someone shouted. He will use his demon magic to influence the Emperor to order an invasion here in the east. We need to kill them both, said another person. Prepare 4 ambush squads of our most skilled shinobi and Jiraiya to go into the Empire to kill them. It will fall apart and we'll be safe once more, said another councilman and the shouting continued. Silence, yelled Tsunade, as she slammed her fist down, and made everyone shut up. What you are asking Tsunade to do is potentially suicidal not only for the shinobi sent out, but for the village itself, as failure of such a mission would result in a war with the Empire. And we are already in danger of being destroyed by 3 major powers here in the East. I don't need to remind you of the potential scandal we had when the box filled the remains of root shinobi were dropped on our doorstep in pieces and the Empire's insignia on the box with a warning from the Emperor, said Jiraiya while Danzo stiffened slightly at remembering that fact. Then we appeal to the fire daimyo. Tell him the Kyuubi got free, is in the Empire, and should be extradited back here to Konoha for its crimes against the village, said Homura while seeing the other members nod in agreement. And in return, the Emperor could ask the people of Konoha be brought up on charges against Naruto for their hand in his abuse, and will have the backing of our former allies to put pressure on the fire daimyo to side with the Empire, said Jiraiya knowing that this was a two-way street when it came to sensitive politics. Someone always got screwed. What do you suggest we do? Sit here and do nothing, said Koharu, as she saw Jiraiya shake his head, and could see he already had a plan. We need to handle this covertly. Look, the Empire is stable enough that I can enter it without the risk of someone killing me just for being there, and at the very least I'll be arrested with the chance of facing the Emperor himself on those charges. I talked to him, get some insight into the kind of man he is, and use my charm to convince him to let me go with a signed copy of one of my books to get the man onto our side, said Jiraiya with a confident grin while Tsunade rolled her eyes. And just how do you intend to get the Emperor on our side? He already knows about the Kyuubi, as the man has been in contact with the demon brat, and the demon himself for roughly 6 years. The chances of him hearing you out are very slim, Jiraiya, said Danzo, as he saw Jiraiya shrug since it was a risk, and shinobi take risks every day. I'll think of something. At best, I can convince the Emperor to hand over Hinata, and let this whole ugly business be left alone since provoking him over Kyuubi seems like a rush to death. If anything, I should try to ask for the Empire to ally with us, and keep our own enemies off our back. Not to mention if successful, it could gain us our old alliances back to further make Orochimaru, and the other shinobi villages trying to batter down our doors, said Jiraiya seeing the people in the room nod in understanding. Hiashi-sama, you've been awfully quiet throughout this meeting. I half expected you to throw a temper tantrum over the loss of your daughter, said Tsunade seeing the Hyuga was surprisingly calm. I sensed my daughter might try something like this with the Emperor, so after the group leaving was late returning home, I personally activated Hinata's cage bird seal, and left the Empire a pathetic weak corpse. The only thing that demon brat has now is an empty lifeless body, said Hiashi with a smirk on his face at the victory over his daughter and the man she loved. Thanks a lot, Hiashi-san. You've just made my mission so much easier, said Jiraiya sarcastically while the Hyuga grimaced knowing he was right. You have your mission, Jiraiya. Go with a team I'll send with you to talk to the Emperor, convince him to return Hinata's body to us, and at the very least, bring Naruto back here to Konoha, said Tsunade while those in the room were grumbling in disgust at how they didn't need the demon brat in the first place and it was foolish to try. Imperial Palace days later. Hinata was in the royal gardens of the Imperial Palace, loving the flowers that were in it, as they seemed to exotic, rare, and filled with life. It was heaven on earth, and that was truer with Naruto here in the palace. Naruto had expressed how much he missed her, how much her words meant to him over the years, during the hard battles, the fights, and the near-death experiences he had when fighting to unite the land into what was now the Empire. Naruto told Hinata that it was because of her words to him years ago before he left, that he had survived the brutality of the war itself, and had long since planned to do something to save Hinata when the time came upon the uniting all the lands in the West. Then, just when Hinata didn't think she could be more surprised by Naruto, he gets on one knee, looks her right in the eyes, and asks the Hyuga to marry him. To be his one and only woman in the world with his heart in her hand. When he produced the heart-shaped diamond ring, Hinata hugged, kissed, and accepted without hesitation right in front of several individuals. Walter smiled, Kyuubi smirked, Liu Bei along with his sworn brothers cheered at the sight of their emperor, who had finally found his other half, ask the woman to marry him, and hear her accept. Nothing could ruin Hinata's happiness at that moment, as she wanted to have the wedding right away, and everyone to know of their wedding. Naruto agreed, but he told her that a condition of being his wife was to get stronger, and that she wasn't going to be a pampered empress like so many of wives of the daimyos in the East. Many of them had never had a hard day's work in their lives, having servants do the chores, never working hard, or heavy labor when required. Hinata accepted the condition without hesitation, as she had wanted to be strong from the start, and wasn't going to stop until she was second if not tied for first only to her husband in terms of strength. So Naruto had Hinata training with some of the Empire's best female fighters like Tifa Lockhart and Chung Li for taijutsu training. From the Southern Water Division, Naruto had a woman named Katara help Hinata with mastering her own water affinity, and learning new ways of healing using water itself when mixed with chakra that was properly attuned to the element. Are you enjoying yourself, Empress-sama? Said Yoko Kurama, a fox demon with great skill, and deadly precision in everything he did. Oh yes. Thank you for asking, Kurama-san. Your flowers in the garden are so beautiful, said Hinata, as she noticed Kurama was in his more humanized state, and wondered why that was since she didn't mind the more fox-like form. Thank you for the compliment, Empress-sama. The Emperor himself said you would like the garden and I am pleased to see he was right, said Kurama bowing to the Hyuga. There is no need to be so formal, Kurama-san. I'm not the Empress yet. Even still, I wish us to speak normally since I am your friend, and you are mine, correct? Said Hinata, as she saw the brief look of surprise on Kurama's face for a second before it became a gentle smile, and saw him nod. I would like that very much, said Kurama, as he knew without a doubt in his mind that Naruto had chosen his wife, and Empress wisely. "May I ask why you are here, Kurama-san?" said Hinata, knowing the man, or rather Fox Demon, was here for a reason. "Yes, I'm afraid that news has come of a traveler, who wishes to speak to the Emperor, and this man wishes to talk to your future husband about you," said Kurama, seeing the Hyuga girl's eyes widen. "Me? Did the traveler say his name?" said Hinata, seeing Kurama nod, though he didn't look happy about it. "His name is Jiraiya of the Sannin. He was in the company of a few Konoha shinobi that were his escort here. They were your age or around it, with some being even older. I can only guess they were either your classmates, they graduated a year ahead of you, or some of the more veteran shinobi from the Leaf," said Kurama, seeing Hinata nod understand. "Is my future husband speaking to Jiraiya now?" said Hinata, seeing Kurama shake his head in a negative way. "No. Naruto has been stalling Jiraiya and his escort while keeping a close eye on them should some of them wander off where they shouldn't. He requests you join him in the royal audience chambers for this meeting with them, and to let you know Kyuubi will also be attending for his own reasons," said Kurama, as he saw Hinata smirk, and knew that she knew the Emperor had a plan up his sleeve to make the Konoha shinobi really piss themselves. "I shouldn't keep my future husband waiting, now should I?" said Hinata, with Kurama also smirking, as he extended his hand, which Hinata took while he escorted her to the royal audience chamber, and sit by her lover before he addressed the Leaf shinobi a few rooms away. "Waiting room with Jiraiya and group. Fancy place the Emperor's got here. Not too showy, but not too simplistic either, and the female help aren't bad looking either. Who wants to bet he's banged at least one of them just for the fun of it?" said Kiba, now fully healed with Akamaru by his side. "Just make sure your dog doesn't mark anything here, Kiba. We're guests here. The fewer to no P markings this place has from Akamaru, the better chance we have of this little meeting with the Emperor going smoothly, and avoid the chopping block," said Jiraiya, seeing Kiba nod, and gave a look to Akamaru. "I'll be respectful to the Emperor, but if Naruto's around," said Sakura, as she had every intention of smashing her fist through Naruto's skull, and make his brains turn to mush. "Don't, Sakura. Naruto has a great deal of favor with the Emperor and the respect of the people in the Empire. To strike him would spark further tensions we can't afford," said Kakashi to his former student. "Of course he does. You saw the demon in Spring Country after the tournament was over, Kakashi-san. If given the chance, I'd rip his throat out, and mount his head on my wall back home," said Kiba angrily at the idea of the demon having his woman. "Behave yourself, Kiba. We don't know the position Kyuubi has with the Emperor. If you provoke either one, we may not return to Konoha alive, and that will severely weaken the village," said Kurenai, knowing the Inuzuka was pissed off about Hinata not only being here, but now dead thanks to her cage bird seal being activated, and her last moments no doubt being with Naruto. "I'll try, but if this Emperor guy is some snooty, I'm better than you kind of guy, then I say the hell with being nice, and just tell him to screw off," said Kiba, while his former sensei sighed at his brashness. "I doubt he is like that, Kiba. This man forged an empire out of the West through warfare and is no doubt keeping his skills sharp to avoid being removed from power. It is what leaders of an empire do after all," said Shino, while having been told beforehand by a man named Walter that his bugs would not be tolerated flying around the imperial palace and would result in immediate punishment in the loss of one of the Abarame's limbs for each bug the butler claimed could be tracked back him if floating around. Shino didn't doubt it, so his bugs, out of their own form of self-preservation, and his own, had decided to stay within Abarame until they were out of the imperial palace. "Which means none of you bakas are going to do anything stupid." "Got it," said Anko, as she saw the younger shinobi in the room nod, and the door near her opened to reveal a young man with long red hair wearing well-dressed clothing. "Jiraiya of the Sannin and his associates," said the figure, who they recognized was the man named Kurama, and met outside the walls before they were escorted here, where the man named Walter spoke to them. "Yes," said Jiraiya, seeing the man turn fully to face him. "The Emperor will see you all now. Please follow me," said Kurama, walking out into the hall towards the royal audience chamber with the group following close behind him. "I have a question," said Kiba, while ignoring the warning look from Kurenai to not do anything stupid. "Depending on the question I will answer it," said Kurama without looking back. "Why do you smell like a fox? Are you secretly Kyuubi?" said Kiba, while making the Leaf shinobi around him tense and Kurama stop walking. "No, I am not Kyuubi. However, since there is no way around denying the truth, I am a fox demon," said Kurama, seeing Kiba baring his teeth at him. "You don't look like one," said Sakura, while Kurama just chuckled. You think all demons like dogs, foxes, and cats are incapable of having a human-based form. That is incorrect. While I myself do possess a fox-like form, it is nowhere near the size or strength Kyuubi himself possesses, which I am sure the older members of your group remember, and witnessed years ago before he was sealed away. There are some demons in the Empire, who have 3 forms, which like myself, and Kyuubi have the honor of possessing. What you see now is my human-looking form, while my secondary form is far more powerful, and shows some of my more fox-like traits that prove my heritage is indeed that of a demonic fox. The main form of demon animals like myself and Kyuubi are the ones Konoha is already familiar with when we are using our full potential, said Kurama while making a hand motion for them to continue following him. So you have a strong affinity for fire like Kyuubi does? Said Shino curiously, as he did not take Kurama to be the fire type, and didn't radiate the same hostile power Kyuubi did. Though whether that was meant to be comforting or downright scary was unknown to the Aburame. No, I'm more attuned to nature itself. I can manipulate plants and trees using my powers to create beauty, or death. Said Kurama simply with a small chuckle that made the leaf shinobi behind him shiver slightly. So Kurama's power are similar to the Shadaime Hokage's own, but more advanced given his demonic energy, and he's capable of using it as a weapon in a pinch, thought Kakashi while filing that away for later. And remembering to stay away from the plant life that looked unnatural. So what's the Emperor like? Said Enko, deciding to focus on the Emperor himself and get a feel for the guy that would no doubt decide whether or not they leave the Empire alive. You will find out soon enough, said Walter from behind the group of leaf shinobi and almost scarring them out of their clothes. Where the hell did you come from? Said Kiba while pointing a finger at Walter, who just smiled at the boy in an unnerving way, and the loyal butler quickly vanished before reappearing with the Inuzuka's finger in his hand. You should never ask such things in rude tone, young one. It's considered disrespectful, said Walter while staring into the Inuzuka's eyes, and Kiba could practically smell blood on the man's hands. This guy is a killer. He's seen death and no doubt delivered it upon others using those very hands when required, thought Kakashi, as he knew a taker of life when saw one, and this butler seemed to be a master in the field. Walter, we can't keep the Emperor waiting, said Kurama seeing Walter look at him and nod before letting the Inuzuka's finger go. Of course. Let's continue, said Walter while Kurama continued with the leaf shinobi behind him following and Walter in the back to ensure no stragglers decided to stray from the set path. The group soon made their way to the designated doors that led to the royal audience chamber, which was guarded by samurai, and each guard had their hands at the ready to cut through any one of the guests right there should the order be given. With a nod from Kurama, the two by the door opened the heavy doors while the others kept a close eye on the Konoha shinobi, and leaving nothing to chance. When the 2 doors were fully opened did Kurama finally walk into the royal audience chamber with the leaf shinobi behind him quickly following, and Walter doing the same before signaling to the samurai to shut the doors. Jiraiya along with the others gasped at how elegant it looked, as designs of dragons and foxes decorated the room in an elegant tapestry that made anything in the east look pale by comparison. It didn't even hurt that there was fire, yes, an actual line of fire along both sides of the large room, which rose nearly up to the ceiling, and upon following the trail led to the man sitting behind a wall of flame. This time the Emperor's face was not masked by a helmet or covering like they had seen in paintings or in person in Spring Country. Beside him was a woman, who was hard to make out at first, like the Emperor himself because of the wall of fire, but as they got closer, a sense of dread filled the hearts and minds of the Konoha shinobi. The eyes that stared at them through the flame were piercing blue eyes, filled with cold fury, and it reminded the older shinobi of the group of one person that had been a hero to Konoha for many years. The woman next to him was wearing regal robes worthy of her station in being the future empress of the empire, as she looked at the leaf shinobi, and one Inuzuka with anger. A very rare thing to do given the woman's gentle nature, but considering everything that had happened to her, and to the one she cared about, it was long overdue. The only reason I allowed you an audience with me, is because I felt it was time some of you understood the severity of Konoha's stupidity, and the level of your own arrogance. Said Naruto, his voice filled with anger, which matched his eyes, and the fire that spiked ever so slightly around him. Naruto, you are the Emperor, said Jiraiya seeing those cold blue eyes glaring at him with such intensity it was like staring into his late student's own. Surprised? You shouldn't be. After Konoha's betrayal, I had an interesting conversation with Kyuubi, and he suggested I go to the west beyond the wall. considering how my life was shot to hell by the likes of that bitch of a Hokage and those in power before her to further gain what they wanted. I agreed, said Naruto, seeing Jiraiya's eyes widen. Quit playing around, Naruto. We all know you're really the Kyuubi. We all saw you in Spring Country when the real emperor called out to you, said Kiba before the already intense fire around them grew with the flame licking the ceiling above them. Foolish Inuzuka. You know not what you speak of, so hold your tongue. I was in Spring Country. Of that, you are indeed correct about, but I was not there as the Kyuubi, and you would do best to remember that before I have one of my subordinates make an example out of your hide. Said Naruto, his anger directed now entirely on Kiba, and the Inuzuka was hesitant to say anything else while the flame around them continued to flux with the emperor's anger. If you're not the fox, then prove it, and have Kyuubi reveal himself. Said Sakura before she heard a cruel chuckle from behind a circular pillar with the design of a dragon rising up around it. You mean me, Haruno? It seems your arrogance has blinded you all from the simple fact we are not the same as you can plainly see with your own eyes. Said Kyuubi, as he now walked towards the group, and the group took a step back away from him. If you're the Kyuubi, then that means, said Sakura, as she turned from looking at the demon fox to Naruto, and then back again before staring at Naruto in horror. At last, you all finally understand, and the painful truth has been revealed. Said Naruto with a cruel grin on his face aimed at her and then at the others. But, Mom said, she said Kyuubi and Naruto were one and the same. Said Kiba in shock at seeing his whole perception of reality he had been raised into believing was true become shattered in a single moment. You don't believe Naruto still? Kurama. Stab me, said Kyuubi before seeing Kurama look to the emperor for permission, and when Naruto nodded did the other fox demon comply. Using his rose whip, Kurama pierced Kyuubi's shoulder with it, a wound that the more powerful fox simply ignored when struck, and further proved he wasn't just some weak shadow clone of Naruto under a henge disguise to deceive them. When Kurama pulled his weapon out, he bowed apologetically to him, and then to the emperor himself before turning it back into a rose. As you can see, the proof, as they say Kiba, is in the blood, and the truth that was never made known to everyone in the first place because of the scandal it would cause. You know what I mean, don't you, my godfather? Said Naruto to Jiraiya, who looked guilty in a way a child did in being caught with his hand in a cookie jar, and lying despite the truth to the contrary. So you know, huh? Said Jiraiya while the fire spiked around him and Naruto's blue eyes narrowed dangerously. Of course he knows, fool. Who do you think told him? Who do you think told him the biggest secret ever kept from him? You know the one. It was kept from him even longer than my sealing into his body. Said Kyuubi seeing Jiraiya's face go deathly pale. What secret? Said Kurenai seeing Kakashi and Jiraiya flinch while Naruto's anger once more spiked at seeing the former react. A secret known to a select few. A select few, who were trusted to do their duty, and yet they chose to betray the man entrusting them with it, said Naruto angrily while Jiraiya and Kakashi looked down in shame. I don't suppose you care to tell us, said Enko while hoping he would, since she, like most of them, was in the dark about this hidden secret. The secret known to a select few is who my father is. Though considering the last name I had for most of my life, you would think the one muscle the leaf hasn't used in a while would work again, and figure it out, said Naruto with most of the group still didn't know what he was talking about. Your last name was Uzumaki. So what? Said Kiba before Kurenai smacked him on the back of his head. That was my mother's last name. If anyone growing up around my father's time here used their brains, they would understand there was only one Uzumaki in Konoha at the time before I was born, and they know who she married. Said Naruto seeing the older adults of the group stiffen and could practically feel the cold shiver that ran down their spinal columns. Uzumaki Kushina, said Kurenai, as she had met the woman a few times, and wondered how it was she missed the painful truth about who Naruto's mother was, with the man's father being equally painful. What's the significance of some woman with the same last name as him? Said Kiba while Anko smacked him on the back of head. Baka. Uzumaki Kushina was the wife of Namikaze Minato. Namikaze Minato was the Yondaime Hokage of the Leaf. Naruto is the son of the Yondaime Hokage. Said Anko seeing Naruto smile at her, but his blue eyes that were filled with rage, and would not leave him. Now you finally understand. Now you finally realize just how stupid, just how reckless the people of Konoha were for what they did, and the significance of just how deep the betrayal was to my heart. Said Naruto while glaring at both Jiraiya and Kakashi, since he knew they would understand the double meaning behind his words. Naruto, I We came here to talk to you. Peacefully. In a civil manner, said Jiraiya, as he saw Naruto narrow his eyes at him more, and had to look away before looking away yet again when his eyes locked onto Kyuubi's crimson orbs. Civil. Do you take me for a fool, Jiraiya? That you are the only one with a spy network. I know why you've come here with your little band of leaf shinobi. You want Hinata-chan brought back to Konoha, said Naruto simply while Kiba growled slightly before Walter made a noise that told the Inuzuka to be silent. She should be buried in the leaf. It was her home. It still is her home, said Kurenai, as she saw Naruto look at her, and then surprisingly, he laughed. Bury her. Why? Hinata's not dead. Or has your vision become so clouded and narrowed so badly that you can't see who the woman is sitting right beside me? Said Naruto, as he raised his hand, and moved it for them to follow where he wanted them to look so they could see the Hyuga for themselves. Hinata, said Kurenai, as she could barely see past the fire, and thus had not seen her former student's face in the process. Give me back my future wife, said Kiba before a firm hand was put on his shoulder by Walter, and the butler squeezed hard while telling the Inuzuka's dog to know his place in not interfering. No, said Naruto simply while Kiba struggled between growling in anger and gritting his teeth in pain from Walter's grip. Naruto, there is an arranged marriage between Inuzuka Kiba and Hyuga Hinata to be scheduled for when the tournament in Spring Country was over. I don't know how well schooled you are in politics, but in the East, her father demands she return home and be married to Kiba immediately, said Jiraiya while not mentioning that Hiashi had already tried to have Hinata killed using the cage bird seal. That was not on her head. Oh crap. Funny Jiraiya. I didn't think Hiashi was the kind of man to marry off his presumed dead Hyuga daughter to Kiba. Unless, he thinks Kiba is into that sort of thing, said Naruto while Kiba went green in the face and wanted to puke like the other Konoha shinobi. We came here originally to return Hinata's dead body to the leaf, but since she is in fact alive, our mission has been altered to returning her home to Konoha to be married, and without delay, said Shino while Naruto focused on the Aburame. Let me guess. Logic demands I comply with this since I am of royal status now and thus comply with the rules of royalty. Both as an emperor and the son of a Hokage, said Naruto seeing Shino nod. Correct, said Shino while Naruto just grinned dangerously at him. Tell me Shino, when was the last time I ever acted in a logical way? Said Naruto, as he leaned forward slightly, and looked right into the shades that hid the man's eyes. I do not know, said Shino admittedly with Naruto grinning even more. Damn right you don't. None of you do. Not surprisingly since you were all told to hate, scorn, and or ignore me. So tell me again why should I follow the rules of the East when I am in the West, and going to be married to this wonderful caring woman sitting by my side? Said Naruto while the fire in the room lessened and Hinata blushed at his words. She's going home and marrying me. That's not negotiable, said Kiba before the fire and the heat from it shot up to dangerous levels. I think it is. You seem to forgetting, this is my empire, this is my home, and this is my house in which you have entered demanding something from me. Said Naruto before he snapped his fingers and instantly the samurai outside, plus entirely new squad entered the room, and surrounded the group. Naruto stop, please, said Sakura while hoping he would listen to her for old time's sake. I don't answer to you. I don't answer to any of you. Not to Konoha, not the councils, not the clan heads, and certainly not to the Hokage responsible for ordering my banishment from the Leaf Village. Don't worry though, as I'm not going to kill you in order to send my own personal response back to this, but rather send you back humbled, and filled with regret that will forever be considered an irremovable mark on your souls. Take all, but Jiraiya away to the dungeons, as I have some things we need to discuss, and I don't want any kind of distractions from the Konoha scum he brought with him, said Naruto seeing the guards restrain the leaf shinobi and escort them out of the room. Naruto, stop this. We're sorry. Please, said Sakura, but her voice was ignored by the emperor, and his focus clearly on Jiraiya. Do you wish me to leave since this is personal matter between you two? Said Hinata, but Naruto shook his head no, and put a hand on hers to signify he wanted the woman to stay. No. This is important. As my future wife, you should be involved in my personal life and all that I do, said Naruto with a smile on his face, as he kissed her hand which made the Hyuga blush before they both turned to face Jiraiya, and their smiles left. So, what do you want to talk about? Said Jiraiya while seeing Kyuubi, Kurama, and Walter were in the room in a triangle formation with the Sannin himself in the center of it. I wish to talk to you about my family estate. Specifically, everything in Konoha that's not nailed down, and that I inherited from my father. From the most simplest teacup to the house he lived in with my mother. I want to know everything. Said Naruto in very dangerous tone, and Jiraiya knew that his godson was going to get what he wanted no matter what. Sure, why not? After all, it is yours. Said Jiraiya, letting out a sheepish laugh, and saw Naruto was not amused. Not even in the slightest. That's right. It is mine. Something you are going to inform Tsunade upon your return when we are done talking here and you enjoy some of my hospitality. The very kind of hospitality the leaf showed me when I was growing up, said Naruto, seeing Jiraiya now whimper in fear, knowing this was going to hurt on so many levels before the blonde let him along with the others leave the empire. Dungeon area beneath the Imperial Palace. Not many people got sent to the dungeons of the Imperial Palace, as few wished to even cause unrest within the Western Elemental Empire, but there were still few that did, and when caught were sent there to face justice. When the Leaf Shinobi were brought to the dungeon area, they were instantly stripped of all weapons, and means to escape while being allowed to keep their clothes on in order to show the Empire didn't stoop that low. Each prisoner was put in a different cell, their chakra-suppressing cuffs placed on their wrists, and the shackles prevented any attempt of escape from this area impossible. Enko's curse seal was seen by one of the guards and was stopped from entering her cell before she felt a slip of paper with a seal on it be put on top. The special Junin felt an intense pain where the curse seal had been and had cried out from it while the others were in their cells. When it was over, Enko felt the guard shove her in, and shut the cell while not even caring if the special Junin tripped when entering. Enko, what did they do to you? Said Kurenai while hearing Enko move slightly and find that out herself. I don't know. They put something on that, said Enko, knowing Kurenai understood what she meant. Your curse seal. What did they do to it? Said Kakashi, hearing the woman moan out in pain from touching it and trying to sit up more. I don't really know, but if I had to guess, I think they purged it from my body, said Enko, who was completely stunned that this had happened, and so were the others. Do you think it's permanent or just temporary? Said Kurenai while she heard Enko hiss in pain at touching where the mark was. Definitely permanent. I feel burned flesh where the curse seal is located, said Enko, as she could feel the pain from the mark no longer being there, and yet would prefer to have Jiraiya look at it later to ensure it was gone. Maybe they'll share the seal with us to use on Sasuke, said Kakashi, hopefully, knowing the Uchiha could use it. Considering how rude we were to the Emperor. Not a chance, said Kurenai while the sound of Kakashi letting out a hollow laugh filled the area. Naruto is the Emperor of the Western Elemental Empire. It figures. You put him in a situation or area that is impossible to fix, and what does he do? He fixes it. He's just like Minato-sensei, said Kakashi while leaning back against the wall and wondering how things got so twisted. He's also a lot like Kushina. So full of energy and life. You stand in her way, it didn't matter how strong you were, she'd find a way to knock your teeth out, and made sure people were there to see it, said Kurenai, as she remembered Kushina, and how hot-tempered the woman was when it came to women hitting on her husband. Many a female, both civilian and kunoichi alike, were sent to the hospital. Something to consider when down here among the filth. You've become just like the rest of your people in the Leaf Village, said a deep melodic-like voice belonging to someone of terrifying power. Who's there? Said Kiba while Akamaru whimpered in fear. Who indeed, little man? Said the figure behind the voice, laughing while he materialized from the dungeon floor, wearing a red trench coat, hat, shades with orange lenses, black pants, shirt with a crimson vest, and long dark hair. You are not human, said Shino, with the figure having the biggest smile they had ever seen appearing on his face. The name is Alucard. That's all you need to know. The dungeons here are my domain. Never before have I had so many guests at one time sent to me by the Emperor. We are going to have great deal of fun before you are sent on your way, said Alucard before laughing a cruel and evil laugh that would put Orochimaru to shame. Royal audience chamber. Sometime later. Jiraiya was thrown across the room by the punch delivered to his body, skidding across the floor thanks to the hands of Kyuubi, and his level of brutality in hurting the Sannin. Jiraiya had confessed everything to Naruto a long time ago, telling him every single thing the Emperor wanted to know, since not telling him seemed to be pointless, and after that happened Naruto asked Kyuubi to beat the holy hell out of the Sannin for the both of them. Naruto-kun, I think he's had enough, said Hinata while putting a hand on his own. Kyuubi, stop, said Naruto, which for Jiraiya was just in time since the demon fox was about to drop a demon strength enhanced foot down on the man's crotch, and cripple the man in the ways of perversion. You're sure? Said Kyuubi seeing Naruto nod. Hinata wishes it. Walter, send him down to the dungeon with the others. They are going to stay there for the next few days with him. Said Naruto with an evil grin on his face. As you wish, my emperor, said Walter before dragging the beaten man away by his hair to further cause the man pain. Naruto, I'm sorry. I had no choice. Naruto, please. You have to believe me. Naruto, I am sorry. Naruto, said Jiraiya while calling out to his godson before the door shut behind him and left the remaining people in the room alone. I know you are sorry, Jiraiya, but the thing is, we all have our choices make in life, and you chose, unwisely. Said Naruto in a cold tone before closing his eyes and banishing the anger deep within his heart. He didn't want to be like this in front of Hinata. Kyuubi, Kurama, could you leave us please? Naruto-kun needs to relax, said Hinata, as both demonic foxes bowed, and left the two lovers alone. I'm sorry you had to see that part of me. I don't like being a cruel person, but it had to be done, said Naruto while not looking at Hinata in shame of his own actions and felt her gentle hand on his face. They hurt you, Naruto. They betrayed you like my family betrayed me. It's only natural your heart aches at the sight of them and wishes to heal in its own way, said Hinata, as she put her face to his own, and felt him put an arm around her shoulder. You are what heals my heart, Hinata-chan, said Naruto in a whispered tone, and two held each other even tighter. Let's go somewhere to relax. I think you can stop being emperor for the rest of the day, said Hinata, as she took his hand, and the two rose before leaving via secret passage to the gardens where they could relax in their own private sanctuary. A few days later, the shinobi from Konoha looked, for the lack of a better word, an utter wreck. They had not slept much since their time in the dungeons, looking more like bums off the streets one found within the slums of society than shinobi, and the look in their eyes spoke of broken spirits. Each one went through nightmare upon nightmare at the hands of Alucard and his promising fledgling of a student, Sarah's Victoria, learning from the experience. The woman had blonde hair with blue eyes, which further hit home for them since Sarah's could pass for being Naruto's sister without whisker marks, and when angry turned into crimson ones like Naruto's did when using Kyuubi's power. I trust returning to Konoha in your state won't be a problem, said Kyuubi, as he had seen fit to drop them off at the wall, and knew it would be a long road back since Earth Country along with Iwa stood in the way of getting back to Konoha. We'll manage it, said Jiraiya, as he had his legs broken the day before by Kyuubi, put them in casts, and was then given crutches to make it back home that way until Sakura could heal him. Kyuubi had forbidden her from doing it until they got back to the leaf. Good to know. Oh, just one more thing before you leave, and it concerns that woman you call Hokage, said Kyuubi before tossing Kakashi a scroll since Jiraiya was unable to do it and stay upright. What's this? Said Kakashi while trying some idea what was inside. Incentive for that bitch to comply with Naruto's demands and claims for what are his by birthright. The things Konoha will no doubt try to deny and or destroy before they ever hand them over to him. Which reminds me, Kakashi, hand over that kunai, said Kyuubi seeing Kakashi stiffen slightly and look away. I don't know what you are talking about, said Kakashi before he felt Kyuubi's chakra flare around him. Don't test me, Hatake. You were given everything back to you earlier, but Alucard spoke to me of an unusual kunai in your possession, and when I asked him to describe it to me in detail, I knew what it was. Give it. Now, said Kyuubi with eyes that left no room for arguing. But, Minato-sensei gave it to me as a gift when I became Junin, said Kakashi with a sense of defiance, but the demon fox took a step forward, and claws out ready to tear the man's heart out if he was denied one more time. A gift that you are unworthy of after abandoning the man's son. I find you are unworthy of being the Yondaime's student. I find you are unworthy of even being alive, and the only reason you're still breathing is because your sensei's son wishes it. Though why he does, I don't know, since it will only require one of you to send a verbal message to Konoha, and the dead bodies we send back should more than reinforce things. However, I trust Naruto completely, and if he wishes to show mercy by letting you all return, then so be it, said Kyuubi, knowing his former vessel had a motive to this madness and decided to go along with it. I understand, said Kakashi, as he handed the Hiraishin kunai that Minato gave him to Kyuubi, and felt a sense of loss in doing so. Glad we understand one another. Now get out of here before I decide to do something violent, said Kyuubi before pointing them in the direction Konoha would be after they traveled several hundred miles. With humble submissive bows, the Leaf Shinobi turned to face their side of the continent, and wondering if how they felt now would become worse after giving their report to the Hokage about their failure in this mission. What would the repercussions be? Would they face banishment too? If Naruto could be banished for succeeding, then what was the price to be paid for failing their village, and the Hokage? They could only hope the information they brought back would have enough value to prevent any such punishments from the Hokage. They were a poor sight to see when entering Konoha. They looked, felt, and even smelled bad from all the stuff they had been through in the Empire. When they made it back into the Leaf, they went straight for the Hokage Tower, where the Hokage, the councils, and clan heads were waiting for their report. Jiraiya, Kakashi, Kurenai, what the hell happened? Said Tsunade, as she saw the state of her shinobi, and wondered what the Emperor did to them over there. We met the Emperor. He was less than pleased with our arrival and even less with our requests when asked why we were in the Empire, said Jiraiya, wincing ever so slightly. This is an act of war, said a civilian councilman angrily. A war we would have no chance of ever winning, said Danzo with a glare to the idiot to shut his mouth. Danzo was all for war, but only wars he knew the Leaf could win, and make his own side of the village even more powerful. In any case, the Emperor is not going to return Hyuga Hinata, or Uzumaki Naruto back here no matter how much we want him to comply, said Jiraiya, seeing every Leaf official in the room scowling at being denied. Let him keep my failure for a daughter. She's just a corpse now, said Hiashi smugly at knowing all the Empire had was a dead body with sealed Byakugan eyes. No, she's not, said Kurenai while seeing the surprise on their faces. What do you mean? The cage bird seal should have killed her, said Hiashi, as he now felt a sense of panic rise up into his chest, and didn't like it one bit. Apparently, the Emperor saw fit to remove the cage bird seal from Hinata, as he most likely considered it to be barbaric, and has decided Hinata will be much safer with him in the Empire, said Kakashi, seeing Hiashi stand up, his Byakugan eyes blazing with anger, and looking now at the Hokage. I want this Emperor dead, Tsunade. I do not care if he is their leader of the Empire in the West. He has my daughter and thus the Byakugan eyes in his possession. I will not allow this man to take what is not his from my clan, said Hiashi, as he was going to appeal this action to the Fire Daimyo, and make the Emperor hand over his daughter. There's more. We know the identity of the Emperor of the Western Elemental Empire, said Jiraiya while catching everyone's interest. Who is he? Said Tsunade while Jiraiya and the others looked hesitant to answer. The Emperor is Uzumaki Naruto, said Jiraiya, and waited for the inevitable yelling from the people in the room. And wasn't disappointed. With a span of no less than 5 seconds, the councils and the clan heads began their shouting at what do with this truth revealed to them. Some called for the death of the Emperor, others wanted to use the realm of politics by having the feudal lords of the East announce the man's right to be emperor, and abdicate his throne before being brought back to face their justice. This continued on for a good 10 minutes, maybe more than that, since the shouting of different things was causing headaches, and thus made it appear longer before Tsunade finally had enough. Stop, yelled Tsunade, as her voice silenced everyone else's, and turned their attention to Jiraiya to continue his report. Naruto is less than pleased with us. In short, the Gaki would sooner rip our guts out than save anyone in the village, and not only that, but he also knows the truth, Tsunade, said Jiraiya, seeing the woman's eyes widen while everyone around her looked between the two in confusion. How? Said Tsunade, demanded, and saw Jiraiya sigh, knowing there was more to it than just Naruto figuring things out on his own. Kyuubi told him, most likely after Naruto set him free, said Jiraiya before the room was once more filled with shouting. This is outrageous. I will not accept the demon and that boy are separate entities. They are one and the same, said Inuzuka Sume in anger. No, Mom, you're wrong, said Kiba in a humble tone that caught everyone's attention. What? Said Sume, not believing her son just said she was wrong. I said you're wrong. All right, yelled Kiba while not believing he just did that with his mother sharing that same line of thinking. But, it's not possible, said Sume, as she didn't know what to think, and neither did the clan heads. We saw Naruto first with the Kyuubi appearing behind a nearby pillar when Sakura had demanded proof they were separate entities. Kyuubi even went so far as to let someone else in the room injure him with blood being drawn, and further prove that he wasn't one of Naruto's shadow clones under the disguise of a henge. We were wrong, Mom. Wrong, said Kiba, as he saw the shock on his mom's face, and realized that was the look on his own when the news first hit him. If only I could get near the Kyuubi while in the heart of the empire, I could manipulate it to destroying everything, and thus use him to take control in the following chaos, thought Danzo, knowing that was most likely be impossible given how anyone in the leaf would most likely be killed on sight. Tsunade, back to Naruto, knowing the truth I mentioned earlier, the Gaki wants it all, and by all I mean everything. Said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade's eyes widen. He can't. I won't allow it, said Tsunade, while once again causing confusion among the councils and clan heads at her reaction. What does the emperor want? What is this truth you keep referring to? Said Shibi, as he saw the group wince, and even his son looked away in shame. Don't say it, Jiraiya, said Tsunade, scowl, but surprisingly Jiraiya returned the glare with his own, and it was clear the man had reached his limit with her. Oh, grow up, Tsunade. It's going to get out one way or another. It might as well be from us before the fire daimyo comes back to really chew us all out, said Jiraiya fiercely. Will you just tell us the secret already? Said Koharu impatiently. Uzumaki Naruto is the son of the Yondaime Hokage, said Kakashi, which no surprise once more caused shouting to erupt, and cause everyone to get a major headache. Impossible, said one person. I will not accept this, said another. That man is a liar and abomination, said Homura, while the shouting around them just continued. Shut up, yelled Tsunade, with the room being quiet once more. Again, it was Kyuubi himself who informed Naruto of this, and the fact we had been entrusted to being his godparents, said Jiraiya, while Tsunade gritted her teeth in anger while everyone around her just couldn't believe this information to be true. We abused the son of the Yondaime Hokage, said Shikaku, knowing his wife was going to send him to the hospital tonight, far worse than she ever did in past. Probably just past the time she was pregnant with their son and her hormones went super crazy. Naruto wanted to give us a chance to hand over his inheritance before taking matters into his own hands, and I strongly advise we give him everything, said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade close her eyes for a second in thought. My answer is no, said Tsunade, which surprised everyone, and that it was not the answer they were expecting. What? Hokage-sama, why? Said Inoichi, seeing Tsunade's eyes narrow. Because I said so. If that brat wants what he claims is his, then he has to come here by himself, and take it from me, said Tsunade firmly. Hokage-sama, you have no standing to make that decision, and to say no would further bring about the wrath of the empire, said Enko, as she saw Tsunade glare at her, and knew this woman was in no mood for anyone defending Naruto's position. Hokage-sama, this was given to us by Kyuubi to hand to you in the event you decided this course of action, and he called it incentive, said Kakashi before handing the slug princess the scroll. And what could Kyuubi have in his possession within this scroll that would want me to bow to the whims of that brat? Said Tsunade, as she casually opened the scroll, and quickly threw it away before it caught on fire. The fire itself manifested into a single form in red samurai armor and revealed himself to be Kyuubi. Oh man, and I thought the kid's stomach was a cramped space when sealed away, said Kyuubi, cracking his back and working out the kinks in his body. Kyuubi. But how? Said Jiraiya, with the fox just smirking at him. 2 words, Sanin. Shadow clones. I mean, the kid is a master at using that jutsu with, or without my chakra backing him up. It's not like I don't know how to use it after being with him for so long, said Kyuubi before turning to face the terrified people in the room that made his vessel's life so miserable. What are you doing here, Kyuubi? Answer me or I'll use every ounce of power at my disposal to crush you, said Tsunade, standing up and glaring at the demon fox. Please, spare me your posturing in being the tough, staring into the face of death, kind of Hokage you make yourself out to be, Tsunade. We both know with a flick of my wrist or tails that this village will be crater while being nothing more than a distant memory, said Kyuubi, seeing Tsunade grit her teeth in anger, knowing he was right. All the more reason for me to act now and turn you against the empire, said Danzo, as he rose from his seat, and revealed the Sharingan eye behind the bandages on his face. And here I thought you couldn't get any uglier, said Kyuubi, while Danzo smirked at him before the old war hawk revealed his altered arm. I've waited for this moment for years, only to be denied by that fool Sarutobi, and then later when your vessel escaped my root forces. Now bow to your new master and future ruler of the world, said Danzo, using the Sharingan eye to bring the fox under his power. Sorry, I don't bow to humans, who would use things, and force others into submission with it, said Kyuubi, seeing the shocked look on Danzo's face at the bloodlines he stole not having any effect. This isn't possible. I know for a fact the Uchiha and Senju bloodlines have the power to tame you, said Danzo, as he tried again with the Senju bloodline, but found Kyuubi was unaffected by that bloodline, and gritted his teeth in anger. Oh, they were. I'm actually ashamed to admit. But, that was before Naruto removed that weakness, and set me free from such outside forces influencing me to do someone else's dirty work. Those days are over, said Kyuubi with an evil grin on his face. Impossible. Kneel. I command it, said Danzo, trying again and still having no luck in bending Kyuubi to his will. I have a better idea. How about instead of me kneeling, you die, and your soul goes straight to hell? Said Kyuubi, as he was upon Danzo in an instant, his clawed hand wrapped around the old man's throat, and another on the mixed bloodline-filled arm. Before ripping it clean off and burning it. No. Doesn't that foolish Uzumaki know what he's done? Without those bloodlines being effective against you, the Leaf Village, and any place you wish to destroy will be destroyed without any opposition. Said Danzo with Kyuubi grinning at him. Of course he does. In fact, it was the reason Naruto did what he did in the first place, and basically didn't want me to have such an excuse for the next time I want to go on a rampage again, said Kyuubi before plucking the Sharingan out of Danzo's skull and crushed it. He is a fool. The man has unleashed an unrestrained evil on the world, said Danzo with Kyuubi scowling at him. No. You controlling demons like me to rule over others is an unrestrained evil. Goodbye Danzo, said Kyuubi before he consumed the man in fire and turned the old fool to ashes. Foul demon. You and your former vessel will pay for this. Anbu, said Kaharu, as she saw the room filled with Anbu with weapons drawn, and ready to fight. I don't think so. You see, even if you sealed me away in another child before killing that innocent soul, I'm not going to just disappear off the radar, and be lost to the Empire. In fact, I don't know how any of you even thought that killing a demon's vessel kills the very demon sealed into them, and just shows me how little you know of sealing, said Kyuubi, seeing Kaharu and Homura go pale in the face, since that was clearly the initial plan after he was weakened by Konoha's forces. Tsunade. Call them off. We don't have the means to fight him, and we both know only a newborn Uzumaki has the strength to contain him, said Jiraiya, knowing that any child used other than one of Uzumaki blood would never have the strength to contain Kyuubi's power. You should listen to him. I came for what is Naruto's, and I have no problem killing just about everyone in Konoha until I get what I'm here to collect, said Kyuubi, seeing the female Hokage in front of him growl angrily. You have a lot of nerve being here, Kyuubi. Even more for trying to take everything that belonged to the Yondaime, said Tsunade, seeing Kyuubi scoff. Naruto inherited those things from him, you old hag. Or have you forgotten the Uzumaki blood that runs through your veins? Have you forgotten that I was once sealed inside your own grandmother? Said Kyuubi, while Tsunade became even angrier. What's your point? Said Tsunade, seeing Kyuubi's eyes narrow dangerously at her. My point, in case all the sake you've been drinking over the years has destroyed your brain, is the simple fact your godson is also an Uzumaki too, and you betray them all by doing what you did years ago the very day Naruto was born. You are unworthy of very blood that in your veins on both sides of the family, said Kyuubi before Tsunade's anger reached its peak and she threw a punch at the fox. Only for Kyuubi to catch it. That was a bad move, thought Jiraiya while seeing Kyuubi's now stone face looking at Tsunade's shocked one. I take it this is your final answer in terms of giving Naruto was as rightfully his. Said Kyuubi before he used his own strength to easily squeeze her fist and the sound of bones breaking could be heard. You, said Tsunade, seeing angrily before Kyuubi grinned evilly at her. Sorry to disappoint you, Tsunade, but you're not my type, and I wouldn't touch you even for the chance to sit on Kami's throne of power, said Kyuubi before he slammed Tsunade onto the ground using the limb he was holding to do it, followed by swinging her up and around into a wall. Tsunade fell to the ground when gravity pulled the slug princess to it before she tried to get up, but Kyuubi was already there, picking her right off the ground by the neck, his fist landing punch after punch to the woman hard in the gut, and making the female Hokage puke up blood. He then threw her into a wall, slugged Tsunade in the face, a nasty bruise already forming, and then Kyuubi threw the woman onto the floor with enough force to cause a body imprint. In fact, a bit more pressure from Kyuubi, down onto the spot where Tsunade was flat on her back, the woman would get sent down to the level below, and there was no telling if the demon would stop there. Kyuubi-sama, please stop, hurt Tsunade. She's had enough, said Jiraiya pleadingly to the demon. But Kyuubi was in no mood to listen. I don't think she has. While you two were embracing your vices, smiling from the joys they brought, and having an all-around good time. My vessel suffered beatings like this one. Countless beatings. He tried to plead for them to stop, but they didn't listen, and just continued to make his life miserable. You two could have stopped it. You two could have stayed in the village, raised Naruto like he was your own, and showed him love. Do you honestly think this minor beating Tsunade is getting is enough? Perhaps you would like to join her after I put this bitch in a full body cast. Said Kyuubi while glaring at Jiraiya, who kept his mouth shut, and looked away from the demon. Jiraiya, help me, please, said Tsunade looking up to her former teammate before the looming shadow of Kyuubi's form blocked it and the crimson eyes glowing. Your teammate can't help in bailing you out anymore, Tsunade. Not with the heavy debt you owe your godson, said Kyuubi coldly before he brought his leg up high and then slammed it down on Tsunade's gut with more than enough force to send the woman through the floor down the next one along with the floor after that. All the way down to the bottom. Damn, thought Jiraiya before seeing Kyuubi refocus on the others in the room. Don't think I haven't forgotten about the rest of you. I have something far more cruel in mind for the rest of you maggots. You basically screwed over my vessel out of spite for me, not even caring, or even considering the fact you could be wrong about Naruto. Your own pride blinding you to the truth that he was not me and never was from the start, and look where it's gotten you. So here is what's going to happen. You are not only going to give me everything that belongs to Naruto, which isn't nailed down, and all the money in his accounts to be transferred to the one he has in Spring Country under Uzunado. Then, you are going to announce to the rest of the village just who was Naruto's parents, and how they are on their own regarding any kind of help from devils they couldn't put down because of their stupidity. That was the one thing the Shadaime, Nadaime, Sandaime, and the Yondaime always did when they were Hokage of Konoha. They never let too many enemies come up to the point where there were too many to be put down, and because of your arrogance, the leaf is practically doomed to fall because of the belief that Konoha is invincible, said Kyuubi seeing the clan heads look away in shame because they knew the demon was right while the others just grumbled in slight admittance. We'll see to it the emperor gets everything, said Homura while Kyuubi just grinned at the shinobi council. Sorry, but fruit from the poisonous tree is just as poisonous, and therefore I'm not biting into what you're producing, said Kyuubi before unleashing a whip of fire on Koharu and Homura that killed them instantly. Don't kill us, said one civilian councilman in fear. We were only following orders, said another one. Piss off, said Kyuubi before he incinerated them too. I take it we're being spared for a reason, said Jiraiya knowing Kyuubi could have killed all of them in one move rather than kill them all separately. Of course you are. You are going to ensure everything with the Namikaze name is given to me to give to Naruto, and if so much as a single drop of sealing ink is missing, I will finish what I started years ago, said Kyuubi seeing Jiraiya nod his head. We'll make sure everything that you ask of us is done, said Jiraiya while Kyuubi just ginned at him. I'm glad we could reach an agreement on this, said Kyuubi before walking out of the room with the Anbu parting the area to let him pass. Unknown location. This report can't be right, said Orochimaru, as he looked at right hand of a medic Nin Kabuto, who nodded to indicate that it was accurate, and it was not a good report. It is Orochimaru-sama. Unknown assassins killed the Earth Daimyo, the Tsuchikage, the Lightning Daimyo, and the Raikage in such a short time span. No one knows just who was responsible for it, but it's clear that someone wishes to halt the tide of war here in the elemental countries, and your goals in the world, said Kabuto with Orochimaru snarling in anger. Could it be the Akatsuki? They are after the Jinchuriki, and that explosive nutcase in the group was from there with a grudge against Iwa, said Orochimaru, but thought against the idea the Akatsuki were responsible for kill the first two targets, as Deidara from Iwa would have made an explosive device to blow the village up, and even then the results from such a way of destroying a village would gain them nothing. It was silent. A stealth kill. One to remove people at the top from the equation of the ongoing war. Kumo, Iwa, and Orochimaru himself had been allied in waging against the other villages, namely the Leaf. With their allies abandoning them after they banished Uzumaki Naruto, Orochimaru had talked to Kumo and Iwa while using their hatred for Konoha to bring them together with him in a mutual alliance. The Raikage himself had been reluctant at first to join in an alliance with Orochimaru, as he had heard of how the Sannin had betrayed Tsuna's previous case, and wouldn't put it past the man to do it again. However, the promise of a Hyuga, perhaps several of them once the war was over, had proved to be too much for the Raikage, and they were still smarting from the loss of the Nibi Jinchuriki ni Yugito. They suspected the Akatsuki had disposed of the woman after extracting the Biju, but Killer Bee had apparently told the Raikage that his Biju could sense the Nibi was alive, and far away from their side of the world. The old Tsuchikage had wanted revenge on Konoha for years, as the losses taken by the Yondaime Hokage were still hurting them, and then the loss of their two Jinchuriki was even worse. Iwa had originally suspected Konoha was involved after they got rid of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, since both Han and Roshi's beasts equaled 9 tails in power. But that was soon shot down by spies in the Leaf, who gave reports stating neither one was seen in Konoha, and were just as baffled by the loss of the Jinchuriki from all over. Only 2 Jinchuriki were left in the elemental countries, yet the Akatsuki didn't have any of them, and the one demon they did have was only after it manifested itself 3 years later. Roughly around the time Yagura, the late Mizukage, died at the hands of the rebels while being the Jinchuriki, and thus set the demon free to slowly reform again in the waters of the world. How do you wish to proceed, Orochimaru-sama? Without the command of either side's highest officials, their armies cannot be mobilized, and we cannot crush the Leaf like we planned, said Kabuto, seeing Orochimaru become even angrier. It doesn't matter. We don't need Iwa or Kumo for our invasion plan. I only had them join to keep my own forces from suffering more casualties than necessary when this started. Who is the current Kage of Iwa and Kumo now? Said Orochimaru, wondering how he could manipulate these events. The late Sandame Tsuchikage's granddaughter. She was never for the war with Konoha once it was revealed their Jinchuriki weren't in Konoha. The Raikage's younger brother, the 8-tailed Jinchuriki named Killer Bee, has taken over for his brother, and was also against fighting an unnecessary war with the Leaf since he wished to redirect the village to fighting the Akatsuki, said Kabuto, with Orochimaru gritting his teeth in anger. Neither are intimidated easily. I can't just seal off the 8-tailed Jinchuriki like I did the Kyuubi vessel, because the man has apparently become strong without his demon helping him. Kuretsuchi is like her grandfather in regards to doing what she puts her mind to and is too stubborn to have it changed. We'll crush Konoha now. Prepare our forces. I want to stand on my sensei's monument head and stain it with the very blood of his people, said Orochimaru with an evil grin on his face. I'll give the order, Orochimaru-sama, said Kabuto, knowing it would take a few days to mobilize everyone. Konoha several days later. Is this everything? Said Kyuubi while glaring at Jiraiya and looking into his very soul to detect if he was lying. Yeah, everything was done just like you asked, said Jiraiya, who had been healed up by Sakura, but even then it was considered unwise for him to be on his feet for too long, and Shizune was healing Tsunade, though the Hokage's injuries were far more severe, with her condition required staying in a hospital bed for at least another week. And the people now know the truth, said Kyuubi, as he saw Jiraiya nod, but the demon fox already knew it had, and just wanted to rub it in further. Yeah, not everyone is happy about hearing it though, said Jiraiya, with Kyuubi scoffing at him. Talk to someone who actually cares if they're happy, and then give me their names so I can smash their faces in. I'm taking this stuff back to the Western Elemental Empire, so the house, the scrolls, and everything that is Namikaze sealed away in this scroll, with the only one opening it being of Namikaze blood, said Kyuubi, as he had all the items that Naruto wanted, and the money was transferred to the bank in Spring Country before it was retransferred again to the Empire. Well, no one is going to stop you, said Jiraiya, seeing Kyuubi nod. Goodbye, said Kyuubi, as he was gone in a flash of crimson, and left Konoha in a state of depression no one could get around. Barbecue restaurant. I feel like such an, said Kiba, as he poked his food, and not feeling very hungry. We betrayed the most loyal Leaf shinobi that Konoha has had in a long time. All Naruto wanted from us was friendship, and we spit on him for something that wasn't even true to begin with. We betrayed the very convictions this village was founded on, said Shino, as he had confronted his father about this, and the truth regarding Naruto to see if the man knew. Shibi admitted that he did know the truth about Naruto not being Kyuubi, but to preserve the Aburame clan in village filled with a vast majority of people who hated Uzumaki Naruto while growing up, logic dictated he along with the rest of his clan simply follow everyone else's lead, and thus think illogically. An ironic way of doing things, and in the end proved to be completely stupid in the long run for the clan by making them all look like hypocrites. How do we make this up to him? Said Ino, as she felt just like Kiba did, and had yelled at her father for poisoning her mind in the belief Naruto was the Kyuubi. She had never used so many swear words in her life or aimed them at her own parents, no less, until a few days ago. We can't. The village is sinking and we're going along with it. Like filthy rats living on a sinking ship. Even with the councils effectively removed from play, outside forces just like Orochimaru will find out about this, and believe this is the perfect chance to strike before crushing the leaf for good, said Shikamaru, knowing the entire village no longer had the will of fire at the moment to fight anyone. It was practically snuffed out by their own hands. How's Neji holding up? Said Kiba, knowing Ino did her own rounds at the hospital and saw the once prideful Hyuga branch family member. He's been quiet. Has been since Kyuubi paid him a visit. From what I heard, they had some kind of conversation, and it was about the Hyuga clan's future. Don't know what exactly, but apparently Hiashi tried to interfere, and is now blind after Kyuubi put a seal of his own on him, said Ino, having heard the rumors, and Hiashi being absent from the public life of Konoha seemed to confirm them. The ultimate punishment for anyone with a dojutsu-based bloodline, said Kiba while thinking the Uchiha was next. Speaking of such people, I heard Sasuke didn't exactly take the news regarding Naruto on both counts very well, and tried what Danzo did in the meeting room, said Shino, as he knew of Sasuke's quest for power, and any measure to seize it. Yeah, he did. Even with the damage done to him, that jerk still tried to pick a fight when he shouldn't have. I was there when he tried to. Sasuke called Kyuubi the fox pet of the Uchiha clan, and was determined to bring the demon back under Uchiha control. That it was his revenge against Naruto for having that blind taijutsu fighter in Spring Country ruin any chance of him reviving the Uchiha clan through his own body. Not only did it fail, but Kyuubi had ripped Sasuke's eyes from their sockets, and crushed them in his hands, said Shikamaru while muttering, troublesome, under his breath. Not like Sasuke would have revived his clan even if he had balls, said Kiba while Ino glared at him. What does that mean? Said Ino while seeing Kiba roll his eyes. Oh come on Ino. Even you've seen it. The way the girls that threw themselves at him were turned down. The way he would be around guys when Sasuke thought no one was looking. Uchiha Sasuke is gay, said Kiba with Ino's face going red with anger. You take that back, said Ino with Kiba just looking at her for a second and then Shino. Can you help me out here Shino? You've seen it, said Kiba with Shino nodding. I have noticed Uchiha Sasuke does seem to hang out around the males of Konoha more than females. My bugs have also informed me of his pheromone output doubling when around strong male shinobi, said Shino seeing Ino looking at him now in shock. So Sasuke is really gay, said Ino seeing Shino nod. All current data from my observations of him have concluded he is, and most likely in the closet, as they say, said Shino with Ino smashing her head onto the table and a rain cloud formed over her head. Does Sakura know? Said Ino, her head shooting up. Not like it matters. Sasuke can't reproduce. Lost his eyes, and the fact he's gay just means no one short of Uchiha Itachi himself is going to be able to revive the Uchiha clan, said Shikamaru, knowing the Uchiha clan wasn't really a popular clan right now to bring back from the brink. At least Sasuke can walk. Lee's permanently crippled this time. That Tifa Lockhart in the taijutsu tournament in Spring Country knew where to hit him, said Kiba while Ino winced since she had seen him in the hospital and told the bad news by Tsunade about being crippled forever this time. Talk about karma. Naruto busted his on every mission he went on, and one of them was to bring Senju Tsunade back to heal the injured after Orochimaru crashed our very first Chunin exams. Lee was paralyzed from the waist down after his fight with Sabaku no Gara then, and Naruto brought back the one person who could give him his life back. When Lee denounced Naruto into being a demon, I will painfully admit that my way of thinking was along his too, just without the springtime of youth stuff, and hated our blonde former friend, said Shikamaru sighing in despair. We made our choice in following what the village believed about him, and it was wrong from the start, said Ino, wondering what was next for them all. There's nothing short of a miracle from saving the village, is there? Said Kiba seeing Shikamaru shaking his head. Nothing short of Kami sending us back in time to our past selves and kicking our own asses before stopping the village from making a big mistake will save us all from total destruction, said Shikamaru with the others looking down with depression-filled faces. Who would save them now? Imperial Palace the next day. So it has begun, said Naruto looking over a report given to him by one of his agents in the Thieves Guild. Apparently so. Suna also sent a report to us regarding the exact same thing. Orochimaru is on the warpath against Konoha and marching his forces to the village as we speak. The Akatsuki are going after Killer Bee, and Iwa has just heard the news of you being the son of the Yondaime, said General Iroh, who had felt it best to hand this information over to Naruto right away, and prepare a defense of the empire itself. And Iwa wants blood for the apparent sins of the father I never knew. Are the Dai Li in position to defend the wall? Said Naruto seeing General Iroh nod. With watchful eyes and ear, my emperor, said General Iroh while seeing the gears in the emperor's head turning. Good. Your brother and the fire division troops are to assist with an offensive attack on them. Iwa thinks because they have large numbers and are right next to the wall that they can get whatever it is they want from me. They think we're like the leaf in being stagnant in times of peace and become soft enough to win against in a fight. It's time to remind them why there is even a wall standing between them and us in the first place. Said Naruto, seeing General Iroh nod in understanding the order. No mercy, my emperor, said General Iroh, knowing such order from the emperor was to be followed to the letter. Show no mercy, General Iroh. I want the death toll of the enemy to be so massive from this one battle that the losses they took at the hands of my father will seem like a small handful by comparison. The people of the empire are my people, and I will not see it be invaded with the people in it hurt by an army of Iowa shinobi with a grudge aimed against me, said Naruto before he got on his fox helmet and sheathed his sword. My emperor, said General Iroh while he saw the look in Naruto's eyes of a man getting ready to fight. This is a grudge aimed at me. These Iowa shinobi want me, General Iroh. It would be rude not to show up to greet my uninvited guests and show them the way out of my empire, said Naruto, seeing General Iroh nod. Your future wife will not be happy about this, said General Iroh, as he saw Naruto sigh and stop at the door. I can't let this be ignored, and I can't let my men fight a battle that does not involve them for me. What kind of emperor would I be if my men fight every single battle without me there? I can't just sit back and let them fight an enemy that hates only me. If I were to ignore this and simply do nothing, then I am not worthy of being the emperor of this empire. Then I am not the man Hinata can say without question that she loves with all her heart, said Naruto, seeing General Iroh nod in understanding. I understand. Let's hurry though. I want to get home to see my nephew and beat him in Pai Sho again, said General Iroh while Naruto just smirked underneath his mask. Will do, General, said Naruto, as they headed out, and put an end to this war before it even started. The wall. Hours later, the army of Iowa shinobi ranging from Chunin to Junin marched on the orders of their new Tsuchikage Kuretsuchi, who was the granddaughter of the woman's predecessor, and the female Kage herself leading the charge. While the woman no longer had any kind of problems with the leaf at the moment, which was different from her grandfather's stance, she did have an issue with the Namikaze, and son of the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, currently residing as the emperor of the Western Elemental Empire. Everyone in Iowa hated the Yondaime Hokage for his slaying of so many of their comrades in the last Shinobi War, which made the man himself so infamous, and feared with that one in jutsu that was responsible for the victory. Now his son was the emperor of this new empire and living a life of luxury behind this damn wall forged before her grandfather's time. Break this damn wall down. I want to show everyone from Spring Country's daimyo to the emperor himself that this wall won't stop us from avenging our comrades slain by the Yondaime Hokage, said Kuretsuchi, as she stared at the massive wall, and wished it was destroyed by her stare alone. Iowa shinobi soon began to bombard the wall with countless explosive tags, large animal summons, earth jutsus, and fire jutsus at the wall. However, the seals left on it by the Uzumaki clan ages ago had not faded, and neither did their repelling power that they were designed to do when the wall was hit. High above, Naruto watched with anger at these fools, thinking they could destroy this barrier between the continents, and invade his empire. An empire he fought, bled, and nearly died forging in order to bring peace to the once chaotic side of the elemental countries. Now these fools below, these children thinking they were adults, dared to poke the eye of the sleeping dragon with a mere stick, and believed they would come out on top in the end. General Ozai, are your men ready? Said Naruto, his sword drawn. Yes, my emperor, said Ozai in full fire division battle armor. Good. Now, General, let's bring them hell, said Naruto, as he leapt off the wall, and Ozai along with his fire division troops doing the same while the Dai Li under General Iroh were on the wall releasing earth jutsus down on Iwa's animal summons to make them dispel. The Imperial Fire Division troops lived up to their names, as they unleashed wave after wave of fire in steady streams down upon the Iowa shinobi, and while the earth jutsus were easy for the enemy of the empire to dodge, the fire wasn't. Fireballs at high speed left Iowa shinobi badly burned. The massive streams of fire launched from the Imperial Fire Division troops incinerated countless enemy shinobi, and Naruto himself sliced through those that came at him without mercy. The Iowa shinobi had focused on Naruto the moment he landed after making a massive crater from landing on the ground and tried their best to end the reign of the Emperor of the Western Elemental Empire. They fell at the hand of his sword. I'm surprised you haven't used your father's signature jutsu on us yet, said Kuretsuchi, as she now stood across from Naruto, and glaring at him with intense anger. I fight my own battles, Tsuchikage. I don't need to use anything of my father's just to win against his spiteful enemies, who choose to become mine simply for what he did so many years ago, and before I was even born, said Naruto, as he saw Kuretsuchi remove her cage robes, and saw she was in full battle gear. You're going to wish you had, said Kuretsuchi angrily at him. Funny. Han and Roshi almost the exact same thing when they first fought me before I convinced them to see things from my point of view, said Naruto, as he now fought the female kage in a battle of swordsmanship, and had to admit the woman was good. For an Iwa shinobi. So it was you. You took them both away from Iwa. Not the leaf or the Akatsuki, said Kuretsuchi, as she tried to take Naruto's head off, and missed when the Namikaze ducked under it. Of course I did. They were both miserable. Being treated only as weapons. Never being appreciated for being the deterrents of war they had been turned into by your predecessor. When I told them of the Empire being a place where they could be free from such things, they accepted almost instantly, and even their demons inside of them agreed when I said it was possible for all of them to be free, said Naruto, as he blocked a strike aimed at his shoulder, pushed Kuretsuchi back with his impressive strength, and beckoned the woman to come forward once more. That is the purpose of Jinchuriki. So what if they are hated by their people? It's part of the job description, said Kuretsuchi, as she clashed with Naruto again, and found herself quickly disarmed with her sword in his other hand. And in scissor formation ready to take the woman's head clean off. A part of the job description none of us had a say in when we were chosen. We were thrust into it and basically forced to accept our roles without so much as an explanation for the reason behind it. We were told to simply, it up, and leave at that. Fitting how the people telling us that are so quick to unleash pain upon us, yet cry out to make it stop when unleashed upon them, and begging for mercy, said Naruto while glaring at the woman, who now had fear in her eyes, and could have sworn the spirit of the Yondaime Hokage was right beside his son with those same cold blue eyes. You really are his son, said Kuretsuchi before Naruto was flanked by two Dai Li agents and they bound her hands. I haven't been recognized as the Yondaime's son until recently. I may be his son, but I am not my father, and the next time Iwa comes at my empire, I'll burn the village to ground into ashes around me, said Naruto before removing the swords from her neck and then motioned the Dai Li to take the Tsuchikage away to the survivor campsite being set up. Not that there were many survivors left. You're letting her live, my emperor, said Ozai, knowing there were few Iwa shinobi left that were either badly injured or dying from their injuries. I'm not entirely heartless, Ozai. My people wish me to be fair yet firm. Sending what's left of this once massive army back along with its leader to their village in defeat is more than a fitting enough punishment. Send a messenger hawk to the New Earth daimyo and explain to him the situation regarding his shinobi village provoking my empire for an old grudge against me for what my father did. Tell him if he doesn't want his country turned into a wasteland, he'll call off all transgressions and attacks on the other regions around him, said Naruto, as he knew this slaughter would get the feudal lord's attention, and the man would wish to head for the negotiation table to work things out. To do otherwise would be foolish. At once, my emperor, said Ozai, leaving the emperor's side with General Iroh taking his place. It won't end here, I'm afraid, said General Iroh, as he saw Naruto nod his head, and there was a sense of depression in the Namikaze. You're right, Iroh. It won't end here. Soon word will reach the Akatsuki of my existence. They will come at us with everything they got to get the Biju in the empire, and then there is Kumo too, since they will want to fight us in their own way for taking Niyugito from them. Orochimaru is marching toward Konoha, and those within it worthy of mercy are going to be killed while receiving none. Is it so wrong for me to want peace, General Iroh? Said Naruto in a semi-tired voice, as he had nearly drowned what was left of his soul in the violence of the wars in the West, scars running deep on so many levels, and now this soon-to-be new one on the horizon threatened to finish the job. Peace is sadly forged only through time of war, my friend. We both know that from our past experiences when the empire had yet to be created. You must ask yourself if the risk of your life along with all the lives of those that fight with you are worth the peace, said Iroh, having been a key insightful figure in the emperor's young life. I can't make that choice alone. I will ask the people if they will follow me in this. If they say no, then I will not commit to war, and only if they say yes will we fight, said Naruto, seeing Iroh nod his head, knowing that was the correct course of action. The people were the emperor's strength and he would need their strength now. My emperor, we have guests under a white flag, who wish to see you, and claim it as urgent, said a Dai Li agent kneeling to the side. Who are they? said Naruto turning to face the Daily agent. One is Special Junin Mitarashi Anko of the Leaf, who was with the escort of Jiraiya of the Sannin when they came to visit you from before, and the second is Senju Tsunade's first student Shizune, said the Daily agent while sensing a few emotions bubbling around his emperor. Just the two of them? Said Naruto curiously with the Daily agent nodding. Yes. They claim to come here on their own without the sanction of the Hokage, said the Daily agent and sensed the emperor was more curious than before. Bring them over, but keep an eye on them, and if their motives aren't pure, detain them for further questioning, said Naruto seeing the Daily agent nodding and then rising quickly to bring them over. Hello Naruto, said Shizune humbly bowing while Anko did too. Shizune. Anko. I'm curious to know why you are here, said Naruto looking at the two for any deception on their part. We came here because, said Shizune, as she was afraid to speak, and Anko saw it was up to her. We wanted to join your empire and seek sanctuary there since the Hokage will most likely order our deaths, said Anko seeing Naruto looking between them for any hint of deception. Why would she do that? Said Naruto seeing Shizune get nervous. Because Shizune was the Fire Daimyo's anonymous source in regards to what happened between you and the Uchiha years ago. A few months after you got shafted by the Leaf Village, he was getting hassled by Konoha's former allies, and Shizune dropped medical reports along with a letter stating what happened, said Anko while Shizune nodded. And you, said Naruto to Anko, I want a new life. Just because the curse seal on me is gone doesn't mean those assholes in the Leaf are going to let things go, said Anko seeing Naruto nod in understanding. True. Given how things are right now, I don't see why you two couldn't join, but you're going to go through a battery of tests, and only after your intentions are proven to be pure will you both be allowed to become a citizen of the Empire, said Naruto seeing the two nod before a pair of Daily agents escorted them to their means to get on the other side into the Empire. Something on your mind, my emperor, said General Iroh seeing Naruto's eyes showing his mind once again working overtime. Just wondering how Tsunade is going to take this and just how far lost her mind already is, said Naruto already questioning Tsunade's mental state and figured when she learned of Shizune's defection would make it worse. In Konoha. Damn them, yelled Tsunade from her hospital bed, as an Anbu reported Shizune, and Anko missing from the Leaf before finding a letter from the former of the two. We sent a tracker team to hunt them down and then bring back for questioning. We lost their scent after it left the village, heading west towards the Empire, said the Anbu with Tsunade looking ready to kill someone. When I get out of this hospital, I'm going to make sure those two bitches are punished personally by me, and reminded of who their loyalties belong to, said Tsunade, as she was not going to let this scorn from Naruto, Kyuubi, Anko, or Shizune go without some proper measure of revenge. There is also the matter of several of our scouts reporting in of them detecting a shinobi army led by Orochimaru is headed our way, said the Anbu while mentally questioning the sanity of his leader. And everyone capable of defending the Leaf is either injured or dead. Damn that brat. How long until Orochimaru's forces get here? Said Tsunade needing some kind of ETA on the Sannin's arrival. 3 days time Haim. A mean storm blew in their area and pinned them down for a short while, said Jiraiya on the window while Tsunade looked furious at him. Why did you allow Naruto to get away with what he did to me? Said Tsunade, as she felt betrayed by Jiraiya, and saw the Sannin shrug. You really expect me to fight against the Kyuubi in my already injured condition? Haim, if the Kyuubi didn't take what belonged to Naruto, the Fire Daimyo would have found out about it, and come here to do it for me, with an army to back him up. I did the only thing that would save Konoha from being burned to the ground, said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade scowl at him. He's not deserving of his heritage Jiraiya, said Tsunade seeing Jiraiya frown at her. On what grounds? Said Jiraiya wanting to hear her reasoning behind that. Does it matter? Said Tsunade with Jiraiya frowning. I think it does. If you have reason to deny him, then stop stalling, and spit it out. Said Jiraiya seeing Tsunade look away. Kushina had complications in terms of getting pregnant. Very rare problem, as her eggs seemed to be unstable, and it was considered a side effect from holding Kyuubi. My own grandmother's journal stated as much when she held the beast, and a procedure was done that only few knew about with even fewer even capable of doing, said Tsunade, as she saw Jiraiya frown further in confusion, and wondered why this was grounds to deny the Gaki Wat was his inheritance. What was the procedure? Said Jiraiya curiously. The procedure involved an egg from a senju being surgically dissected in half for a span of only a few seconds using the eyes and hands of the best surgically skills in the world performing it. Half of the Senju egg would then be put together with the other half of the Uzumaki egg, which was the more stable half, and then use the sperm from the donor in question to create the necessary life-giving process that is started through pregnancy, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya frown at her further. So a Senju egg was used on Kushina in order to help get her pregnant. I guess that makes sense, but who was the donor? Oh, Kami, said Jiraiya, as his eyes widened in shock with Tsunade nodding in admittance. It was one of my eggs. As the last Senju of my family after Nawaki died, I had several eggs frozen away in storage, so in the event death claimed me, a woman could have my egg implanted within them, and give birth to a Senju. Of course, this was all top secret at the time, the most trusted of Anbu knew, and only the Hokage could sign off on such a thing, done just like only a Hokage could sign off on mixing the halves of two eggs into one for someone to get pregnant, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya nod in understanding. Sensei gave the go-ahead to let you freeze your eggs away, and Minato authorized the procedure for Kushina in order for her to conceive using one of your eggs. But how does that disqualify Naruto? I mean, the only medic skilled to do the one procedure to ensure the whole thing would work is, well, you. Said Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade nod. At the time, I was all for it, and agreed to everything when brought to my attention by Minato. But after a while, seeing how Kushina was happy with that damn swollen belly holding a life inside of her, I became bitter, and jealous of the fact she was holding a child that was mine by some paternal right. However, I knew that even with half my egg being used to make it happen, Kushina had all the paternal rights of a mother, since she would bring the child into the world, and so I was forced to watch from the sidelines. As my bitterness grew, so did my anger at Kushina, and I came to the realization that what would soon be born is an unnatural child, said Tsunade, seeing Jiraiya looking at her with shock, then an intense anger she had never seen him look at her with, and before she knew it he had punched the woman right in the jaw. That's it. That's the reason. Has all the sake you've drank over the years destroyed your brain that much? Yelled Jiraiya, seeing Tsunade rub her jaw and using what chakra she had to heal the injury. A child like that cannot have his father's inheritance. With Kushina dead, I am in a way his mother now, and as such I had long since informed Sensei to forbid him from ever having it, said Tsunade, only to have Jiraiya's hand wrapped around her throat, with his eyes showing even more of the rage he had in them seconds ago. I can't believe you. You actually did that to him. Your own son on a technicality, and you throw him away to the wolves. You used to go on and on about how you wanted to be a mother when we were growing up, when Dan was alive. How you two were going to get married, have kids together, and live the ideal family life. Now here Naruto is, the newly born child, turned into the Kyuubi Jinchuriki by his own father, with his mother dying in the process, and you leave him to suffer a village's hate-filled wrath when you knew the boy could have been considered your son. You could have raised him, loved him, taught him, protected him from danger. Instead, you betray him just like I did, only on a far worse level that's lower than even an Uchiha, and all because you considered him in your bitter lonesome to be unnatural. Said Jiraiya, as he let go of Tsunade's throat at the halfway marker of his ranting, and let the woman breathe again. He is unnatural. A child should not be conceived that way, even to ensure a backup plan for a new Jinchuriki being born, and replace the old, said Tsunade, while Jiraiya grit his teeth, knowing that was one of the reasons Kushina became pregnant, since her family was wiped out and a new child of Uzumaki blood was needed. Only in your mind, Tsunade. That kid has the best of both worlds. Hell, I'm surprised he hasn't used your clan's abilities yet, and made a forest rise up from the ground. Maybe he has and we just don't know it yet. But I have a feeling we'll never know because Naruto is gone. He's not coming back, Tsunade, and it all your fault. Said Jiraiya before storming out of the room and slamming the door shut. It was the first time in a long while since he had ever used the door over the window and hated himself for it. Imperial Palace, the speech balcony. It's time, my emperor, said Liu Bei, as he saw the man nod, and looked to his wife. I'm sorry we keep postponing our wedding. I'm a horrible person, said Naruto to Hinata, with the Hyuga shaking her head no in disagreement. No, you're not. You're a wonderful person, who cares about others, and has to weigh the choices in front of him that few can make. It's the price one must pay for being the emperor of an empire, said Hinata, as she hugged him, and felt his lips when he kissed her hair. No matter what I do, I'll never be worthy of your love, and yet here you are being patient with me, said Naruto with a smile on his face while Hinata smiled back. You were always worthy, it just took us longer to come together due to outside forces that tried to keep us separate for so long, and nearly succeeded had you not changed my life when it counted most, said Hinata, as she felt him hug her tighter, and returned it. Even now, outside forces threaten to keep us apart, and the only reason I was able to change your life is because of you changing my outlook in life. Without your confession, I would have felt like there was no one out there for me, and just died alone without my other half. You, said Naruto with Hinata smiling more. My emperor, the speech, said Liu Bei while the rest of his sworn brothers and several other generals were waiting. I'll make this up to you. I promise. When this is over, we're getting married, and having the best honeymoon ever. Said Naruto with Hinata smiling and kissing his cheek. I'll hold you to that, my emperor. After all, you don't break promises, said Hinata into his ear and could feel his blood burning for her now. Yeah, least of all you, my empress, said Naruto, as he squeezed her rear, and loved the eep she let out in the process. Pervert, said Hinata glaring at him, though it was a playful one. That's emperor pervert to you, my Haim, said Naruto before walking to the balcony where his people awaited him for the speech that in dark part of his mind he didn't want to give. He just hoped the people of the empire would support him in this. Omake Lee's painful recovery. Rock Lee was with his former sensei. Both were down in the dumps because Tsunade could not heal him this time. Tifa Lockhart broke his body and forever crushed his dream in being Guy's successor in being the greatest taijutsu master of all time. A well-befitting punishment when you realize who Tifa served and who was also the very same person Lee had betrayed years ago. I'm sorry I can't live up to your expectations anymore, Guy-sensei, said Lee sadly with his teacher in taijutsu looking just as sad. Don't worry, Lee. We will overcome this and show the village your power of youth, said Guy, as he went from sad to his usual self, and his teeth just as sparkly when he smiled. Yes, I will strive to be strong again and show the Western Elemental Empire that I can still be the best through hard work, said Lee with that same determination. Lee, shouted Guy giving his student a bear hug. Gai sen ah, yelled Lee, as his spine was being crushed by Guy's hug, and the man not letting up. Lee, yelled Guy hugging Lee harder. Guy-sensei, stop, yelled Lee, as he felt his spine being crushed further, and the pain exploding. No, I won't. I will hug you until your youth is fully restored, yelled Guy, as he kept squeezing and hugging Lee while the poor crippled shinobi only screamed out louder in pain. Should we tell Guy to stop crushing Lee's already broken spine further? Said Tenten to Neji while they waited outside the room so two weirdos could have their special time together. Would you? Said Neji with the sounds of Lee screaming louder and pleading for Guy to stop. Good point, said Tenten while wincing when she heard Lee's scream nearly reach the level of shrieking. Karma was a bitch.
So, friends, did Naruto do the right thing, or was Konoha wrong? Thinking face, tell me in the comments. And don't forget, like, share, and subscribe for more epic what if stories. Fire.